So, the Minnesota Timberwolves are trading for Rudy Gobert, and as you might be able to tell by the title of this video, I'm not a big fan of the move. So the full deal is the Wolves are getting Gobert in exchange for Walker Kessler, Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Jared Vanderbilt, and Leandro Balmaro, as well as a 2023 unprotected first-round pick, a 2025 unprotected first-round pick, a 2027 unprotected first-round pick, a 2020 and a 2026 pick swap, and a 2029 top 5 protected first-round pick. So 4 first-round picks and a pick swap, and their 2 previous first-round picks going to the Jazz, as well as a couple role players in exchange for Gobert. So that's just a massive, massive haul. So on the Timberwolves side of things, you're pairing up Rudy Gobert with Karl-Anthony Towns, and now your core is Russell, Edwards, Towns, and Gobert. So the idea with Towns and Gobert is obviously they're both centers, but Towns has perimeter skills on offense, definitely, and then Gobert can make up for his weaknesses defensively. But to be honest, I'm just not a massive fan of the fit. And I'm also not a massive fan of Rudy Gobert's contract, which is 5 years for $205 million. Pairing that with Towns' contract, which he's assigned a Supermax extension. So the Wolves now have 2 Supermax centers on their roster. No team has ever had 2 Supermax players on their roster. So the fit, we have seen dual big men work recently. You think of the Bucks with Giannis and Brook Lopez, of the Celtics with Robert Williams and Al Horford, of the Cavs with Mobley and Jared Allen. The problem is, though I do think this trade will help the Wolves a lot in the regular season, it doesn't really work in the playoffs, in my opinion. With the Bucks, they did win a championship, but a lot of it was with Giannis at center. And frankly, Giannis is just more mobile than either of Towns or Gobert. With the Celtics, they're often at their best with only one of Al Horford on Robert Williams on the floor. And for me, I just can't see the Wolves building a great playoff team with Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns on the floor at the same time. So my fit issues are, first of all, offensively, this really hurts their spacing, adding Rudy Gobert, who's not a shooter and can't really do anything outside the paint except for set screens, which could be helpful. So it means Karl-Anthony Towns is going to have to play on the perimeter more. And while I have said he's an excellent perimeter player, maybe the greatest shooting big man of all time, you don't want him always on the perimeter. You want him to be able to go inside and work in the post against smaller defenders. And Rudy Gobert is really going to hurt their spacing and hurt that. It's not going to totally take it off the table, but it's going to hurt that. He's also going to clog up the lane a bit more for guys like Anthony Edwards, who likes to get to the rim. And just overall, I don't see it as a great fit offensively. And Rudy Gobert just isn't much of an offensive upgrade over Jared Vanderbilt, who they were playing before. Though I don't think it's catastrophic offensively, and I don't think it makes them worse because they're already playing Jared Vanderbilt, who is a non-shooter with Towns. So it can work. It just takes away the possibility of offensive lineups where Towns is the 5 and they can play 5 out, and they have all this space for Edwards and Towns to drive into, which would be really, really scary. But why the Timberwolves did do this trade is for the defense. Gobert might be the best defensive floor raiser in the NBA. He's a great rim protector, and they're going to get a lot better defensively, especially in the regular season, because of Gobert's rim protection. So Towns is going to be playing the 4 on defense. He's going to be guarding perimeter players. And the idea is Gobert is just going to be there protecting the paint, which is what he does best. He's the best rim protector in the NBA. Here are some of my problems with it. First of all, it's going to help in the regular season, but in the playoffs, I could really see this getting exposed. Because first of all, the Timberwolves traded a lot of their good defenders in this trade, like Patrick Beverley, and they don't really have many, and Jared Vanderbilt, so they don't really have many good defenders around Rudy Gobert, which was a problem, like in Utah. Like if I think of the Wolves starting lineup, Russell isn't a good defender. Towns isn't a good defender, which is a reason why they made this trade. Edwards has potential to be, but is an inconsistent defender. And then whoever they play at the 3 would have to be a good defender, but still, there's a lot of places to attack, and I just think they're just going to get killed by small ball teams in the playoffs, and that's the direction the West is heading. Like, if I think about a potential matchup against the Clippers or the Warriors or the Grizzlies, three teams who I think are going to be near the top of the Western Conference, all might be at their best when they're playing small ball, because what are they going to do? Imagine against a 5-out team. Imagine against the Clippers where they're playing Batum or Morris at center. Those guys can be in the corner. They can be on the perimeter. And the paint's going to be wide open. And, if you don't think the Clippers are going to be able to blow by guys like Towns and D'Lo, I think they're definitely going to be able to do that. And then when Rudy Gobert inevitably rotates over to protect the rim, they're going to give up open corner threes, and they're going to face a lot of the problems that the Jazz faced in the playoffs with Rudy Gobert as their anchor. And it's not necessarily Gobert's fault, because Gobert might be their best perimeter defender as well as their best interior defender. I think a lot of Gobert's weaknesses on the perimeter are really overblown, but he's not able to guard everyone. And I think against 5-out lineups, they're really going to struggle, and against smaller lineups, because of how the paint's going to be open and how they don't have good perimeter defenders and how they're going to give up threes. And then you think, offensively, they could punish those smaller lineups. But I really don't see it, because Gobert doesn't have any post moves. You can't really take advantage of a wing. Like, you're not going to throw it in for Rudy Gobert post up against Paul George or against Nick Batum if they're playing the Clippers. And then I also feel like you could put a wing on Karl Anthony Towns. We saw against the Grizzlies, he struggled at times, and it was against Jaren Jackson Jr. and Clark. So I feel like the Grizzlies are going to be able, and other West teams are going to be able to just throw, power forward on Karl Anthony Towns. And of course, Towns is going to do okay, but you're going to have guys helping off Rudy Gobert, helping off maybe whoever they play at the 3, who, given their current roster construction, might not be a great shooter. And just, I think they're going to be stoppable offensively because of spacing issues, though a good offensive team. And then defensively, I think in the regular season they're going to be a lot better, but in the playoffs, I don't see Towns and Gobert ever being the front court of a finals team or a Western Conference finals team. And when you're trading 4 first-round picks, and your first-round pick this year, and your first-round pick last year, and Patrick Beverley and Malik Beasley, who are solid role players, for a guy who's 30 years old, make $205 million over the next 5 years, you want that to be a trade. That's the final piece for a championship. And to me, the Wolves are no closer to a championship after this trade. I think it damages their cap situation, where maybe they can go out and get another free agent or make a different trade. I don't know why they would trade 4 first-round picks for Gobert for a center where they already have Towns. And I know there's issues with Towns at center defensively, but still, if you're going to win with Towns, I think it's with him at center. When they wouldn't go for a guard who's good defensively like DeJounte Murray. We saw the price was 3 first-round picks. I don't know why the Wolves wouldn't invest their first-round picks in a trade for DeJounte Murray, where he's a better defender, he's younger, he's on a better contract. So that's just sort of my skepticism with the Rudy Gobert move for the Wolves. Obviously, there are some benefits. Gobert's an incredible player. They're going to be better in the regular season. I think they're definitely going to be a playoff team. And then, obviously, there is still ways they can get better. Anthony Edwards has a ton of potential, and if he can consistently be as good as he was at times in the Memphis series, the Wolves are going to be a real threat. But I'm just not a fan of the Gobert-Towns fit, because, yes, you could say they cover for each other's weaknesses, but they still both have their individual weaknesses, and I don't see how putting those 2 7-footers together in the playoffs is going to lead to a deep run and massive success. So, yeah. And then for the Jazz side, I don't want to talk about it too much, but this is just a great return for Rudy Gobert. Lots of first-round picks, couple young players, though not, you wouldn't say great young players. And then Beverly and Beasley, who I think they could probably move in the season for future assets. And now for them, we wait to see what they do with Mitchell, whether they trade him for a lot of picks and go into a full rebuild or look to rebuild around Mitchell.